we are beginning the meeting. We will be conducting tonight's meeting in person as well as in virtual settings using Zoom. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting tonight on Wave Channel 18 and online through the city's YouTube channel. If you would like to participate in live public comment via the Zoom platform, please refer to the agenda for instructions. Chair Lyons will begin the meeting momentarily.
Very short moment. I call to order the September 21, 2022 City of Lincoln Regular Planning Commission meeting. Secretary, will you please have a roll call?
Commissioner Cross?
Yes.
Commissioner Gilbert?
Here.
Commissioner Hutchison?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Vice Chair Manning?
Here.
Chair Lyons?
Present. Our Pledge of Allegiance will be led tonight by Commissioner Hutchinson.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4 on the agenda is agenda modifications. Do we have any agenda modifications this evening? Seeing none, we'll go to item 5, citizens addressing the commission. Citizens may address the Planning Commission on any item on the agenda when that item is called and considered. Citizens wishing to speak may request to do so by raising your hand and coming up when requested to do so. This time right now, though, is an opportunity to speak on non-agendized items. If you have any, those comments need to be limited to 3 minutes. Secretary, do we have any hands raised or anyone in the chambers that wishes to speak on a non-agendized item?
There are no hands raised in chambers. There are no hands raised on Zoom, and the comments cards that I received are on an item agendized tonight.
Great, thank you. Now, item 6, disclosure of ex parte communication. Do any of my fellow commissioners have any communication to disclose? Being none, we'll go to item 7, the consent agenda. All matters on the consent agenda are considered routine business and enacted by one motion. The only item on it this time, though, is meeting minutes from the August 17, 2022 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Can we do this by voice vote? All in favor? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Unanimous. Okay, that takes us to item 7A. Oops, that's 7A. Item 8, public hearings. 8A is application for a specific development plan, development permit for 23,700 square foot retail shopping center consisting of 5 buildings within the Sun City Lincoln Hills community, 12 Bridges Plan Area B. Robert Perch, our senior planner, will give the staff report tonight. And this is his last planning commission, so this is an honor to have him.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, fellow commissioners. The City of Lincoln has received an application for a specific development plan and development permit for the development of approximately 23,700 square foot retail shopping center consisting of 4 buildings on 3.6 acres within the Sun City Lincoln Hills community, 12 Bridges Plan area. The vacant 3.6 acre property is located on the southeast corner of Oak Tree Lane and McBean Park Drive on parcel number 44 within the Sun City Lincoln Hills development. Property is bounded by Oak Tree Lane on the east, Highway 193, McBean Park Drive to the north, Church on the west, and high density residential to the south. The property is regulated by the Sun City Lincoln Hills General Development Plan and is zoned Village Commercial. Village Commercial is described in the Sun City Lincoln Hills General Development Plan. I keep saying that. These small service commercial areas are principally targeted toward residents, guests, and visitors. And permitted uses in the VC zone include general retail uses, service stations, and car washes. The application includes the design and materials for the 4 buildings as noted previously and the overall development of the property. Retail A, which is on the northwest corner of the property, is approximately 10,000 square feet. There's a proposed restaurant drive-through to the southwest corner. It's approximately 3,600 square feet. Retail building on the southeast corner, that's approximately 5,700 square feet. And then a 6-pump gas station with drive-through car wash at the northeast corner of the project site. Access to the site will be afforded via 2 right-in, right-out driveway locations, one along McBean Park Drive and one along Oak Tree Lane. Along both roadways, improvements including curb gutter sidewalk, stormwater biofiltration areas are proposed. There is a golf cart access that is proposed for those folks that live in Sun City Lincoln Hills to access this site, as this is part of Sun City Lincoln Hills on the lower southeast corner of the project site. The Sun City Lincoln Hills GDP states the following: the architectural character of general commercial area buildings should incorporate design elements utilized for other project principal buildings, although architectural diversity will be permitted to help create unique and attractive shopping places. The Deer Crossing development incorporates many of the elements that you see throughout Sun City Lincoln Hills, including contemporary style architecture, low slung hip roofs, stone at prominent locations, arched elements, canopies, and outdoor seating areas. The Designer Review Board reviewed the project on August 31st of 2022 and recommended that the Planning Commission approve the project that is in front of you this evening. Planning Commission is requested to determine that the project is exempt from the Environmental Quality Act regarding CEQA guidelines 15162, as the site was previously analyzed for commercial development within the previously adopted subsequent environmental impact report for the revised 12 Bridges specific plan area. Therefore, no further environmental analysis is required, and adopt a resolution approving the specific development plan and development permit for the Deer Crossing project. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Does any of the commissioners have any questions for staff at this stage? And keep in mind, I hope we can keep these things at this point to a minimum. I'd like to get to hearing the public comment first before we start debating issues. Commissioner Cross.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that I'm clear in understanding that the zoning that is there now is the zoning that has been there. The zoning has not been changed, or the end use of the property is not different than what was intended originally.
That's correct. And in around early 2000s is when this property was brought into the overall area. So yes, it's always been zoned village commercial.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Quick question. There's golf cart access to it, and this is just a curious question. How will the golf carts get there? Do they have to drive on 193, or is there access from the back of Sun City?
So on the, let me go back. The site, do you have the site plan in front of you by any chance?
I have it in front of us right here. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. So on the south of this property is the apartment complex, called apartment complex for Sun City Lincoln Hills. So around Sun City Lincoln Hills apartment complex called the Villas. On the south side, and then along the eastern edge of Oak Tree Lane, right, separated from Oak Tree Lane, there is a golf cart path.
Okay. That
was always meant to connect to this site because of its incorporation within the Sun City Lincoln Hills area. Okay. But so they'll come in that way, again, separated from Oak Tree Lane.
Right. I'm looking at that, I think now. I'm doing a satellite view. Okay.
So you're talking about that little access path that connects in the southwest corner?
No, the southeast corner.
From Topanoa Lane? Just
the first site
when
plan.
I drove by there today, it looked like that was an EVA only access.
There are 2 EVAs from the villas that go to Oak Tree Lane.
Okay.
So that's the villas down, that's south of this project. There is a gated pedestrian access at the southwest corner of the project site.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I have a follow-up question to Commissioner Manning. Are we talking about golf carts or are we talking about NEVs?
Both.
Both. Thank you.
Interchangeable.
Thank you.
Any questions for staff at this stage? Okay, if unless there are any objections from the commissioners, I would like to move ahead to the public hearing so we've got a lot of public here today that we're going to need to hear from, and I'd like to get that started before we start debating. A speech that I typically give when we have this many people is a lot of times people come to these public hearings are not familiar with proper public hearing etiquette. And so I just want to educate you. This is not intended to be insulting. I do this every time there's a large group, and that is, it is inappropriate to be applauding or calling out from the audience. Please wait till, when you have your name called, come to the podium, and your time will be limited to 3 minutes. And if you go over that 3 minute, I will have to interrupt you. I apologize for that, but that's a requirement. We have to treat everybody the same. What else do I usually say? So just remember proper decorum, and I will call you out if that's not observed. Also remember this is being broadcast, so, and with the church group, I don't expect this to be a problem, but we've had people use some bad language, so be aware that it is being broadcast. So I think with that, I will open the public hearing and ask for our secretary for the first commenter.
Just for procedural, I'll be reading 2 names at this moment. The first speaker will be Kim McKinney, and then Jenny Tandy will go after her. So as Kim McKinney is done, and I will call out the third person's name.
Yeah, that way if you can be ready to come up quickly and we can waste less time, that would be helpful.
So Chair Lyons, I call Kim McKinney.
Is that on?
Thank you. Got to be smarter than the equipment, huh? First off, I'd like to thank all of you guys for allowing me to speak. I'd also like to say that I represent Lincoln Christian Academy, which was failed to be mentioned or notified by the city and the Planning Commission. We are located at the church. So it's not just a church, it's also a school that houses a preschool through 8th grade. We do have a few 9th graders on site this year, but we are a preschool through 8th grade. I'd like to at this time start to read a letter that our parents have composed and submitted to the Planning Commission.
We have that letter and it's part of the record. You do not need to read it to us. Yeah.
Okay,
well, it will be attached to the minutes.
Perfect, thank you. So a few of our concerns are, number one, the school did not receive any notice from the city. This disappointed me a little bit. I grew up here in Lincoln. I have loved being a member of the city of Lincoln, and you guys have always done a great job in looking out for all of us here in the city. So the fact that you didn't notify a school really did disappoint me. Also, we are a little upset by the fact that this is going right next to our school playground. There are preschoolers ages 3 to 5 playing right next to your proposed drive-through. That proposes a major health risk for our students. On just the other side of that is where our middle schoolers and elementary students not only have snack and playtime, but also lunch. So again, what are our students going to be breathing in during this time? Also, before all of this even comes in, you guys are going to be doing a lot of major construction in that area, right next to our playgrounds. So this limits the school's ability to keep our children safe and healthy. On top of that, we are a year-round school. We aren't just in Monday through Friday during school hours, during a typical school year. We offer before and after school care and a summer program, as most of our parents work full-time, are part of the military, are first responders. And we really enjoy being able to provide those services to help keep their children safe in one place. Their parents drop them off in the morning so that they can go to work, and they pick them up in the evenings. Their children are not bused anywhere. They're provided for. We're just worried that with this plan in this space, we'll be unable to keep our kids safe and healthy. And that's our major concern. Was that my time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. After Jenny, Steve Ernst.
Thank you. My name is Jennifer Tandy, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about this founding of our school. Bob and Becky Romness in 1995 started our school in this community so that we would have a Christian school in our community. And my children started in 2003 and had gone all the way from preschool all the way up through 8th grade. At that time, that's what we were at. And she was so, this is what I loved about it. She was so for our community. She was for every aspect of the community, what our school could do to help the community. And as we've gone through years and we've relocated, some of you may know that we used to be over on the First Baptist or First Street Community School property. So we are for our community. So it's not that we want to go against something that would be good for our community, but first and foremost is that we want to protect our children. And I don't know about everybody else, but I know our staff and Kim, these are our children. We have 150 students on this location at this point in time. We have grown since we moved onto this location over 6 years ago, from 50 to 150. So we are a growing school in our community and looking forward to reaching out. So we are very concerned, not only with the health factors, but honestly, the exact place where our playgrounds and our eating area, there is very few minutes in a day where we don't have students occupying that space. We have rotations for our recesses. We start in before school care at 7 a.m. Our school program goes until 6 p.m. So there is very few minutes of the day where that borderline on that plan does not have children actively playing or in that space. There are already a few instances of certain individuals in our community who have come on site, and that might increase with what is proposed to be placed there. So we would just like, hopefully you've got on our record stating all the codes that we don't feel like were met. I am not a city planner I'm an educator, but I'm also a mother, and these are my 150 children at this point in time. And as head of school, it's my privilege to protect them in every way I can. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much.
Chair, sorry, is it fine if can that monitor be lowered at all by the podium so that I can see the speakers? Thanks.
And after Mr. Ernst will be Valerie Patras. And notation for the person online, I do see your hand raised, and I will call out your name when ready.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Steve Ernst, and I'm a member of Lincoln Christian Life Center. I want to give you a little bit of background of who am I. I was a law enforcement officer, 30 years doing vice and narcotics from Los Angeles, San Diego, and up here. I started as an investigator all the way up to an assistant director. I know firsthand what goes on at these mini marts with the transient population that come and go, with the narcotics that transpire in the parking lots, from the crime activity that occurs in the parking lots, inside the stores. I know we live in Lincoln. We have a little bit less of an issue than Los Angeles or San Diego, but being that right on 193, we're going to have a lot of traffic coming and going through there. People are going to pull into the AM/PM, and nefarious activity can occur. Doing what I did for those many years, the majority of the issues that we ever had, from selling alcohol to minors to transients to any of the activity, occurred at these mini marts, 7-Elevens, AM/PMs, you name it. So having this in proximity of the school and of the church is just unconscionable. It doesn't make any sense. I know California law states that a consideration point, being a church or public playground, a church or a school, within 600 feet of an establishment that sells alcohol is something that they have to consider, the California Alcoholic Beverage Control. And to consider that with the amount of protests that would, or objections that are here with the public, I don't think that's a good thing to even put out there. I don't know if this is a fait accompli issue. I mean, the city's already done their part of it. And as has been testified, that the school never got notification of it. I doubt the church did either. I think that's unconscionable also, that the city should have notified those entities before anything goes forward. So coming from a law enforcement perspective, knowing firsthand what occurs in and around these kind of public, these kind of premises, and already the transient activity that has occurred at the school, I recommend this not be approved. And thank you.
After Ms. Petras, it'll be Bill Rath.
Good evening. My name is Valerie Patras. I am the 3rd grade teacher and parent of 2 preschoolers at Lincoln Christian Academy. This is my first year, and I apologize, I am losing my voice, as teachers often do at the beginning of the school year. I would like to say that I too come from a background where my father was a retired law enforcement officer for 30 years. So I do also understand the dangers that can come with this type of property being so close to a school. I'm also coming as a teacher who is responsible for 15 third graders, and my 2 preschool children who are 3 and 4. At our school right now, we currently do a monthly characteristic trait. And this month is responsibility. And it would not be responsible of me if I did not come up here and represent my children, both biological and students, in telling you that this proposed idea is not the healthiest thing for this school. It's not the healthiest thing for this church. And based on the information that we are presenting you tonight, I ask that you take on that responsibility as well to research this as much as possible. And I ask that you use your best judgment in making this decision tonight. Thank you.
After Mr. Rath will be Melanie Borchard.
Hi, my name is Bill Rath. I am a parent of 6 children that go to Lincoln Christian Academy, and I'm also the pastor of Lincoln Christian Life Center. The law says that ABC may deny any retail license located A, within the immediate vicinity of churches and hospitals, or B, within at least 600 feet of schools, public playgrounds, and nonprofit youth facilities. Generally, ABC will deny a license in the above situation when there is evidence that normal operation of the licensed premises will be contrary to public welfare and morals. ABC will also not license a new retail location within 100 feet of a residence unless the applicant can establish that the operation of the proposed premises will not interfere with the quiet enjoyment of the property by residents. Let me just read some statistics real quick. Convenience stores are the 4th largest location of violent crime, right behind residences, highways, and parking garages. There is no other location where more violent crime happens than in a convenience store. Gas station is number 7. There's also convenience stores and gas stations rank 4 and 5 for robbery and theft. We're not talking about a location where there's 3 other corners that have, other stores or other things. We're talking about a gas station and convenience store that is going to share a property line with a facility that houses children almost every day of the week. And my 6 children are there oftentimes after hours. And there has been a considerable amount of transient activity that has increased. And so I'm concerned with the safety of my children. The other thing is the moral impact. So the moral impact that I have to obviously move quickly, the youth encounter the most ads, 38% of ads in outdoor displays, such as billboards and signs outside of stores and bars. When youth are exposed to advertising for alcohol and tobacco, they are exposed in a way that causes them to believe that alcohol and tobacco is a positive experience. The effect of a single exposure was substantial and lasted for 2 days in the child's mentality. Following the exposure to an alcohol ad, which will be all over the gas station, youths reported more favorable beliefs about the typical person their age who drinks alcohol than when they responded to the random prompts. At moments of exposure, their beliefs looked like those of youths 12 months older. Tobacco companies continue to advertise heavily at retail outlets near schools and playgrounds with large ads and signs clearly visible from outside the stores. In fact, in 2020, tobacco companies spent 94%, $8.6 billion of their total advertising promotion expenditures on strategies that facilitated retail sales, such as price discounts, point of sale advertising, coupons, and other things. And this is what RJ Reynolds says, and I won't be able to finish my comments. Evidence is now available to indicate that 14 to 18-year-old group is an increasing segment of the smoking population. RJ Reynolds must establish a successful new brand in this market if our position in the industry is to be maintained in the long term. Why would we want to?
Time is up. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
After Ms. Borchard will be panelist A. Scott. I'm sorry, participant A. Scott.
Good evening. My name is Melanie Borchard. I'm a resident here in Lincoln. I have been since 2009, and my 2 children attend Lincoln Christian Academy. I'm sure we can all understand how volatile the last couple of years have been, the changes we've seen in our city, the importance of the safety for our children, our future here in Lincoln. Our children are our future leaders. They're our future teachers, our future first responders, our future parents who will raise kids who will learn to love Lincoln themselves. If we have a city left here, that's worth keeping. I live in 12 Bridges. We have a gas station there, which I'm sure we're all familiar with. There's crime that happens there. There's transient population that comes through there. I have neighbors whose young daughters have been attacked by people who are visiting outside of that gas station. These are the kinds of things that we see at gas station. I will just reiterate, the people who have come here before, we do not want this for our city, for our children, for our elderly population to deal with. Gas stations, convenience stores, whatever you want to call them, you know what happens there. You've heard from other people who have testified. We see it every day as Californians. There is no need to put this sort of building next to a place where children are every day of the hour. No need. I'm also curious as I see traffic flying by on 193 McBean Parkway, and I see posts from our dear police officers here in Lincoln. the safety factor of traffic entering and exiting this proposed facility. Where are the turning lanes? What's the reason for a gas station when there's golf carts coming here through here? What's the added factor of the traffic addition for the development that's across the street for 55 plus who maybe also have their electric vehicles, their golf carts they're driving? There's a lot of safety just traffic wise. And I'm curious what the thought is there for planning to deal with that 193 traffic. But all in all, I know it's important to grow our economy. Let's do it in a safe way and keep dangerous situations out of our children's lives. Again, our children are the future of our city. They're the future of our state. Let's not put them in danger. I encourage you to not approve this plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Alta Scott.
Yes.
Yes, and I live at the villas that adjoins the deer crossing on the south. I would like to request that you change the access noted on the plans through our north-facing gates for safety reasons. The villas garages are narrow, single-car garages that are a challenge to get in and out of. When pulling out, you are blind to the cross traffic behind you. Pulling in is usually a 3 or 4 point maneuver. Our residents are careful of others and aware of the issue, and so drive slowly behind the garages and watch for opening and open garages. If you allow access through the villas to that north gate, the traffic will be a safety issue. Non-residents are not aware of the safety problem. There is an alternative access already through the park to our south that accesses Oak Tree Lane and is paved clear around to Deer Crossing already and would not pose a safety issue. I would request that you change the plans to close those gates to access through that wall between the two, Deer Crossing and the villas. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chair Lyons, I don't have any more hands raised or cards. I don't know if others in.
All right. I will entertain hands raised from the audience. The man in the blue shirt, please. Have you spoken before? No, I'm sorry. You had your 3 minutes.
Chair Lyons, I have more hand raised on Zoom.
Okay. I saw one other hand in the audience first. Nobody else? Yes, ma'am. Come to the podium.
Hello, thank you for your time. My name is Heather Darnall. I'm a mother of a 6-year-old who attends Lincoln Christian Academy. I'm sorry, so echoey. My nerves are a little shaky because I've
okay,
never
we aren't
spoken.
going to bite you.
Anyway, I'm a military spouse, former military now spouse, and we travel all around, and bringing my child to schools wherever we are basically voluntold to go is a little nerve-wracking. And given that the last couple of years have been difficult for a lot of people to adjust, and a lot of different policies are being enforced or not enforced anymore, make it difficult for me to even want to send my son to school. And so when we were stationed here at Beale recently, we scrutinized the schools and felt like Lincoln Christian Academy was the jackpot. It was the supreme of schools. And now with this proposal, it makes me very uncomfortable because of the health concerns, the noise that's distracting, the loitering in the sales and things. And I'm thinking, what else can go wrong? Not that, as it was mentioned, the building of the economy is wonderful, but I still don't understand why there's a Starbucks on every corner. We don't need a gas station on every corner. There's other things that I think would be a little bit, I guess, better. But I'm still more comfortable with the spacing. how much more spacing can we leave for our children? And just so they can keep just that, they already are getting pushed in with everything shoved in their face. So I'm just asking if you can please consider what all they have left and what they are capable and their potential, just to hopefully they'll remember times like this that their parents stood up and really just gave them a voice, because they don't really have one. So we're trying to give it for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe the person online raised their hand next.
Ryan Boudinot, I will now, you are allowed to speak. He dropped his hand. Caller in user 1, I am allowing you to speak. Caller in user 1, please unmute so we can hear you.
Thank you. Is it working now?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your patience. I apologize. Technical difficulties, even though we've been doing this for a couple of years. Good evening, Planning Commission. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. And thank you for listening very carefully to everyone this evening. I want to reiterate basically everything that has been said so far, but I did want to point out a couple of things as well that I think you'll hear from staff. One of those specifically is you will probably hear that staff didn't have to, or the applicant didn't have to talk to the school prior to bringing this project forward. Something I often tell my kids is that even if you don't have to do something, you still do the right thing. And clearly neither the town, unfortunately, or the applicant in this case, did the right thing. They completely ignored the school. But what's worse is they didn't just ignore the school, they deliberately omitted information about the school from the materials that were brought forward to you. This is unacceptable. This project is not ready for your review at this time and should be denied. I also heard a comment tonight that, well, this project is probably okay because, well, this zoning was approved many years ago. A bad idea doesn't get better over time. It was wrong then, and it's wrong now. And this specific project, for all the reasons that have been set forth tonight, is a very bad project for the town and for the community. This is a rare opportunity that you have to put our children first. Please do so in this instance. Put our children over tax dollars and deny this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else online?
Richard Shambusetti, you are allowed to speak. Please unmute your mic.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I am the architect. I represent the applicant. We are the applicant. I represent the owner. This project has been in progress for several years. Pre-pandemic, it's gone through a number of iterations with the city planning department. Oak Tree Lane the design of Oak Tree Lane has delayed this project for a number of years. But nonetheless, we are at a point, and during that time, we have worked very hard to work this project in a way that it would minimize impact on the neighbors. We did not intentionally avoid the church and the school. I think, quite frankly, and I will admit that should we have reached out, we probably could have reached out. I think the course of the pandemic, just things were confused and things were difficult. But regardless, we have designed the project so that the retail buildings, there's a retail building that backs up to the playground. The the potential drive-through, and there's not a user for that. It's not necessary, it's not given that it's going to be a drive-through, although we're asking for that to be permitted. The drive-through is located behind the gymnasium, so that the noise and the smells will be minimized. If at all, I'm not sure what impact the center is going to have on the school from the standpoint of the buildings that are up against the western property line are set in such a manner that the gas station is totally screened, and I think we have worked very hard with the city of Lincoln, the planning staff, to come up with a project that satisfies the requirements of the applicant, of the owner, and at the same time is as sensitive as we can be to the neighbors. And I'll leave it at that. But we have not deliberately ignored anyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no more hands raised in Zoom.
Okay, lady in pink. I don't know a name yet. Hopefully you'll tell me.
I will gladly tell you. My name is Carly. My 3 kids also go to Lincoln Christian Academy. I have a preschooler, a kindergartner, and a 2nd grader. My other aspect in this is my husband is law enforcement. He's been a law enforcement officer for 22 years. So I have the aspect of seeing all of that every day of my life, as well as protecting my children at this amazing school that we are so grateful to have in our community. My issue with this is the amount of human trafficking, drugs, loitering, so many things with our children right there all day. McBean Park, the actual park, has a lot of loitering and a lot of drugs and a lot of crime that happen every day. That park is so close to my kids' school. Then under the bridge on Lincoln Boulevard is more loitering all the time. Around the corner on Friary Ranch is a gas station, the Safeway gas station and shopping center right there that I see full all the time because it's convenient. If we have that there, why do we need one right next to my kids' school? And the amount of construction and traffic and all of the issues that are going to be caused by putting it there when it's not a convenient location for when we have our kids playing right there up against that fence line. So if the architect is saying it's away, he's saying it's right up against our kids' gym. That's where our kids play. So how does that make sense that it's away from our kids? They play there. They play all along the fence line. There's a play structure, our picnic benches where they eat lunch, and then the kids' preschool in the front, their area where they play. So him saying that it's not going to be a problem for our kids is simply not true. And I would love to ask if he would like to possibly sit down and have a meeting with the Pastor Rath of Lincoln Christian Life Center about these situations or these issues, since he has not come to the school or the church previously, because that would be helpful, I think, for everybody involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Lady in the back corner.
I'm a talker, so I'm going to try to keep this as quick as I can. My name is Sarah Pennington. I have a daughter that goes to Lincoln Christian Academy. We're new this year. She's in the 7th grade. We came to Lincoln Christian Academy because my daughter was bullied so bad at her last school that her and her group of friends all either tried to commit suicide or something close to self-harming, stuff like that. And like the lovely lady that went before me said, I scoured through all the Christian schools that I could find for my daughter, because not only are we dealing with the bullying, but also what they're teaching in the public schools. This school is doing something that we're being called terrorists for in this country, and I'm not even gonna get into all that. But our children are their number one thing, and that's what we're all concerned about. And the architect didn't mention our children at all, other than I don't know why, you know, they're worried about it. The transient is my number one thing, because I live in a part of Sacramento where it is all the time. And, you know, we worry about our kids when we go to school, what they're going to hear from other kids. We shouldn't have to worry about them getting taken or getting shot. And that's something that you have to face, you know, in other schools as well, school shootings. But I'm sorry, my heart is pounding so hard because I'm just so frustrated. But this is one of the last safe places that we have for our kids to go. And what nobody mentioned is this isn't a public school. They don't get government funding. We all pay for our children to go here, for them to be safe at this facility while they're learning and we're at work and we're doing the things we have to do. We shouldn't have to worry about their safety while they're at school. That's why we put them in this school in the first place, is to not have to worry so much about those other things. And, you know, like everybody else said, the crime and everything, you can't act like that doesn't happen everywhere you go. You don't see it. And the back alleyways behind these shopping centers is like the place that transient people love to be the most. They can do their drugs, they can sleep, they can whatever. And we have, unfortunately, police that aren't allowed to do anything about it. But you can do something about it. So I'm begging you to keep our children safe. You know, there's so many other things this could be used for. Maybe more land for the school to expand. And so we can have more kids in another bigger, safer place. So please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentleman in the white shirt.
Thank you for having me. My name is Harry Carnes. I'm honored to say that I've been a resident of Lincoln for 60 years. I remember there was a little over 2,000 people here. I'm also the maintenance and groundskeeper for the church and the school. I do believe there's more important things than money always. Is it going to bring revenue in? Yeah, it is. And usually that's what it's all about. But I don't know. I guess what I need to ask you is it worth it? Because when they put this in, I've been here 60 years. Things are going to happen. That wouldn't have happened. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentleman in the back corner.
I say good morning to you, as I am Jason Gasser. My children go to the school. I'm going to do my best to keep my emotion out of it and try to just do matter of fact. I say good morning because I'm also a paramedic here in this town. A lot of these people have genuine concern about transient population. We all say that it's a possibility. I don't know if you're familiar with Turtle Bay. It's not a development here in Lincoln. However, it is a homeless population that is right there in the creek. It's really close. It's very concerning to me. My other big point is 193 is a major artery. So if crimes to happen, they have many options, many avenues to get in, get out fast. Our PD is incredibly strained. I'm sure you guys are aware of that. Once they leave Lincoln, they're out of the jurisdiction, and now we're reliant on Placer County. So these are my concerns, transient, and then also the major arteries. My children are back here. They stood up. They've been minding very well. And they said the Pledge of Allegiance, all because of this school. So I would really, really like for you guys to consider what goes in there. And if something does go in there, is there a way to have the developer or the landowner work with the school, say if it's going to be a noise problem? How can we help the school? Is it something that the new developer can improve with the with the school, so it's not an incurred cost by the school? The other thing is they talk about a car wash. That's going to create a lot of noise at all hours of the night. You have the people in the villas. They're going to be hearing that as well. So I'm surprised nobody spoke up about that. Come 2035, all electric cars. I kind of find it funny that we're putting in a gas station. So that's my 2 cents. I thank you guys very much for this opportunity to speak. I am currently a class member of the Lincoln Leadership Program. and I'm in it because I care, not just about my school, my church, but my community. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any more hands from the audience? Yes, sir.
Good evening. I did not expect to get up here and talk. My name is Brian Thorpe, and I am the 4th grade teacher at this wonderful school. I was not aware of this happening until just a few days ago. I am understanding that there is a gas station on the corner of McBean and 193 at Sierra College, is that right? Or maybe that would be a good place to put one. The land is already zoned. I guess it is not there at this point. The land is already zoned. It's commercial. There's already a business selling alcohol there on one corner of the intersection. There's nothing wrong with developing this parcel, but we want to make sure that our children are safe. Why would we want to put children in danger? Now, one thing that I think it's Mr. Sambasetti, he mentioned, I think he's not aware that there are 2 playgrounds on the border. If you could pull up that.
This is not an exchange, and we're not.
Okay, I'm just letting you know.
Just make your comments, please.
The comment is there's a preschool, then there is a lunch section, and then in between the fence and the gymnasium, there's another playground that was installed 2 years ago? 5 years ago. So that should have been known by the developers that there's another one right where the drive-through is being put in. It's right behind the fence there. So he mentioned, there was a mention that there wouldn't be much noise or wouldn't be a problem with the children. Well, there's a playground right next to where that drive-through would be. Yes, there is. There's a playground right behind where the drive-through would be. There's a playground between the gymnasium and the fence. There's 2 playgrounds on that.
Yeah, we got that, and this is not a time for debate.
All right, so just letting you know, I don't think everything has been looked at. You think so, but anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any more hands from the audience? Yes, sir. And young man, I appreciate you wanting to be involved, but let your parents do it. Thank you.
So good evening. I'm Brad Darnall. I'm stationed up at Beale Air Force Base. Yeah, my son's with me. He's 6 years old. My wife's already spoken, so I'm going to try and keep it brief, short, sweet, and to the point. It's how my dad taught me, so I'll try and continue that trend. Everything that they've said, I fully agree with. I think, right, revenue is important. Economy is important. School's important too. I think there's other opportunities, other locations probably that this could be placed that's not nearby where school children are going to be playing. So I just ask that you reconsider the location, I mean, not the project itself, excuse me, and take that into consideration in due time, right? School wasn't notified. I know I just found that yesterday. My wife's like, hey, you got to go to the town hall meeting after work tomorrow. And so that's why I'm here. This school bombards me, thank you, by the way, with emails all the time. So it was shocking when I didn't know about this until yesterday, because it sounds like something that I would be made aware of. So just appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Secretary, do we have any more hands raised from the audience or from the online?
There are no hands raised.
Okay.
No, online.
Yeah. Please keep your comments. I'm chairing the meeting, not you. Thank you. Sir in the back row, thank you.
My name is Charles Hopkins. I'm a local tradesman in the community, and we're getting in some dark places. I just don't know if you folks could even imagine your children being behind these doors. I mean, we go in places, we see needles. We see guys that explain to us that children that are being molested in these places. I have a picture on my phone from about 2 weeks ago that I went behind a store. It was the scariest looking guy you could imagine. But I got called to come and see him. I'm a member of a church here, so I have faith about that.
Please address the commission, not the audience. Thank you.
Okay, that I will. So anyhow, this gentleman you wouldn't walk up to, sir, guarantee it. So I walked back behind this building. He told me stories of what are going on. Again, I just want you to think about your children being directly behind those stores. It takes minutes to be gone. And I just don't know how you could even fathom allowing that to happen. The homeless situations, we see a lot. We get into households and numbers of them that you could never match. The things we hear and see that are scary to these communities. And for me to hear what's going on with this church. If that building was even next to the church, and I saw the playground where it was at, I'd wonder what was wrong with the church. But now I got to wonder what's wrong with the community that's allowing it to happen. But thank you.
Thank you. Any more hands from the audience? Yes, ma'am. This meeting would go a lot faster if you all had put in cards so we can make it, keep the pace up.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Tina Aguilar, and I'm a teacher at Lincoln Christian Academy. I am also a parent of an 8th grader, and I also attend the church, Lincoln Christian Life Center. So I just want to emphasize what everybody has already said. There's a million different ways we could reiterate it, but I just wanted to leave you something to think about. Crazy times that we're in, and it's chaotic and it's scary, and our kids are coming to us for answers. They're coming to school for answers. They're coming to church for answers, for hope, for help. These are only a couple of the places that are safe places for our children anymore: school and church. My son right now is at youth group, and he loves his youth group. He loves his school. Please don't take that away from our kids. The opportunity for them to continue to have a safe place to go to school, a safe place to go to church on Sunday mornings and youth group Wednesday nights. Please don't take that away from them. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm seeing no hands in the audience. Sir.
Hi. My name is Marco Campos, and I'm a member of Lincoln Christian Church. I've got an example of not the exact location at our church, but I live on 12 Bridges. I moved here from the Bay Area a couple years ago, and I'm a retired correctional officer from San Mateo County Sheriff's Office. And I just wanted to reinforce the element that a lot of people, I think, sometimes dismiss or scoff at the Chevron on 12 Bridges. For the longest time, when I'd go to get gas or get whatever I was getting there, I was like, where are these people coming from? And I'm not afraid to say that. Transient type people. Several times, I think 3 times, I've gone to into the convenience store and the window is busted. I mean, completely the whole length of it. It's boarded up because they didn't have the alcohol that that person wanted. A lot of them I hear come from Thunder Valley Casino, and then you got a high school right there as well. A lot of high school students go in there in the afternoon. I don't know what the statistics are, but I just know that reality. It's just a bad reality. I know we need gas stations, we need convenience stores, but they don't need to be right next to a school. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any hands online?
Chair Lyons, Richard Sambuchetti's hand is still raised, who is the applicant.
Sorry, he just took it down. So.
Okay, thank you.
He heard you. Okay, I'm going to call the end of the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. First, I want to say thank you to all of those in the public who were willing to share with us. I know it's scary. I know that it seems intimidating. I've been on that side before myself. We're humans, and we are interested in hearing what you have to say. This is not a done deal, and it's not a given. But I also will say, one of the commenters early on said responsibility. We have a responsibility. The job of the Planning Commission is not to decide what we like. It is the job of the Planning Commission in matters like this. It is a quasi-judicial decision. It is our job to examine all of the facts, the laws, the zoning, all of the various entitlements and so forth, and decide, is this compliant with all of those things? And if our findings say that it is compliant, we are obligated to approve it. If we find that it is not, we are obligated to either send it back for some more work or to deny it. So that's what it's our job to do. And we take that seriously, and we do our best to try to accomplish that. So I can't tell you right now what my colleagues will say or how we will vote. And that's why I'm saying this now before anybody makes comments, because we may agree with you, we may not agree with you. I hope you'll respect us when that happens. So first I want to give Rob, do you want to have an opportunity to respond to anything that the public said?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. Start off with noticing, and the caller kind of stole my thunder, and she was right. Our requirements are only to notify the property owner, not a tenant, a property owner. So we did notify the church. The church was aware, I'm assuming, of the notice. It was also in the paper, and a paper copy was sent out. And we have what's called a development activity report, and that project was on that report on the city's website, I'd say for a minimum of a year at least. So it does stink that nobody was aware of it. But notices did go out appropriately and correctly. As far as the uses, those were approved again, and I know one of the callers stole my thunder. Those uses were approved by the City Council with recommendation of the Planning Commission back in the year 2001. So it is unfortunate, but the studies that were done and the analysis that was provided to not only the Planning Commission, but also the Council, was that the church site is zoned CH/LDR 3.5. The uses that are allowed are churches, also schools. This site, the particular site for Deer Crossing, is zoned village commercial, as I noted a million times in my presentation, under the Sun City Lincoln Hills General Development Plan. So when this analysis was completed, those uses were viewed and noted that they can work side by side. Now, whether or not this unfortunate location for the play structures are up against the existing fence and 15 feet away from the proposed buildings, again, that was analyzed in the documents that I have here, and nobody reached out to me to provide them any of these. So it would have been nice, and I could have assisted. As far as alcohol sales, part of the village commercial area, alcohol sales are allowed. I don't need to bring a conditional use permit back to you guys. They are allowed. As some of the speakers were commenting on, ABC does have regulations pertaining to locational distances for certain sensitive receptors. So whether or not ABC is going to approve alcohol sales at the ARCO AMPM, it's one of the things that they wanted to do. It is allowed. So again, unlike other things, I usually bring a CUP back because of the GDP. That's not a requirement. The drive-through location, you'll have another bite at the apple on that. There is no use at this time. So that use and that building is not being approved in as far as a drive-through use. So that will come back as a conditional use permit for the drive-through at the restaurant. Who's to say that maybe during some of the discussions after this, they maybe change it to a sit-down restaurant or some other type of use where it's just a regular retail building. But the other thing too, within all of these buildings that they're proposing, we don't know what the end users are. There's a list of uses that are allowed that we would approve because they are allowed and per ordinance by the city council. So there could be additional alcohol related uses within this area. Just throwing that out there. As far as traffic, there will be at some point coming up here in the next, I don't know, maybe year and a half, there's going to be a signal at the intersection of Oak Tree Lane and 190 McBean Park Drive 193. So traffic will either exacerbate or it will slow in that area. But that was analyzed via the Village 1 environmental impact report and development that's happening to the south of this location down Oak Tree Lane. That's about all I have for now.
Okay, then I'll bring it to the commission and ask my colleagues if they have questions for staff. I'm going to start with Commissioner Johnson.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I have some questions that come up. Just want to thank everybody for coming out and getting involved in the community. It's great to see community involvement. You know, that's why we're here, to listen to the community and, you know, take that into consideration. Oh, sorry. Yep. Yeah, so I do have some questions. And Rob answered some of them about, you know, notifying. So it sounds like the owner was notified of the property. Is that correct?
Correct. The owner was sent a notice for this development.
Do you know when that was, or is there like a requirement or a timeline that usually happens?
I sent it September 8th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then once they receive it, it's their duty to disseminate it to the tenants. Is that correct? Or whatever they want to do with it?
Exactly.
Okay. All right. And in this case, that went to the church. The church owns that property. Is that right?
Lincoln Christian Life Center owns the property.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. And then the fact that there's a school there, does that change any notification requirements or anything other than just, you know, a different piece of property? Like if it's just a church there, but with the school as well, does that change any requirements?
No.
And then another question I have, so talking about, I guess, that side that could have a drive-through, sounds like that would come back later. If they wanted to put a drive-through, that have to go through a conditional use permit process. But along that side, and I don't know if the applicant or developer might know a little bit more about this, or you might know, but is there some kind of a barrier, some kind of wall, or what does that look like? Chain link fence, nothing?
Someone just said chain link fence. I don't recall off the top of my head. I know on the southern there's a solid masonry block wall, but along the boundaries, and excuse me real quick, there's a chain link?
3-foot chain link fence.
3-foot chain link fence? That's what I'm hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Oh yeah, I don't know if the applicant or the applicant wants to, they know for sure?
It is, we're looking at it. Yeah.
3-foot chain link fence? Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if the applicant wants to clarify that.
Mr. Sambashiri, if you'd like to speak, there you go.
Yeah, as a representative of the applicant, I approve you to speak.
Thank you. From a zoning standpoint, we were not required to put any fence at that point in time, but I think we would be more than happy to put a masonry fence like there is between on the south property line That's not an issue.
Do you have any restrictions on how high? If we were to specify an 8-foot sound wall, would you be okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. And then I guess as far as the ABC license goes, it sounds like that hasn't been approved by ABC. That'd be up to them. So right now we're just assuming they could sell alcohol, but that's not necessarily the case. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So it'd have to go to ABC to grant the license?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I guess those are all the questions I have. I just want to, say a comment that it might not be a requirement, but I would almost expect, applicants to, well, this is just me personally. I don't think it's a requirement, but, engage with who their neighbors are, especially here in Lincoln. It's as we've seen, it's a tight-knit community. And so, yeah, I personally, I'm disappointed that didn't happen. And sounds like there's a lot of real safety and moral concerns with this project as it's currently proposed.
Commissioner Cross. Questions, comments? You have the floor. But you also need to turn your mic on. Well, I'm not going to say that you won't get any more chance.
Okay. I have an opinion about the project. I don't have any questions, but I do have an opinion.
Typically what I do, if you'll recall my pattern, I go down the line and then after everybody's had theirs, then I say, any other comments? And then you can always chime in again.
Okay, all right. Well, I want to let you know that I am sensitive, extremely sensitive to the school's opinion and condition. When Becky was still alive, I was a board member of the Christian school board of directors. So I understand, please understand that I understand who you are, what you are, where you're going, and I highly respect the concerns that you've expressed tonight. But I also have to say that I, not categorically, but pretty much disagree with a lot of them. Some are based on, most are based on fear, and that's understandable. When we're afraid, we react, and we need, though, as a board to be proactive. Number one of the speakers said that a new site should be used because the land is zoned for this. Well, this land is zoned for this too. So understand, if the three of us here came and bought this land and the city tells us you can put in a gas station, you can put in a car wash, you can put in a convenience store, you can put in a restaurant, you can do this, 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 and this, without conditional use permits, without special permission. Other than those things, you have to get conditional use permits or special permission. And I propose the development with the exact things that they put on the list that are appropriate for that location, and then have the planning commission turn me down. I'm sorry, I understand some of the concerns, but if I were the owner of the property and you told me you need to do this, 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 and this, and you can build your deal. So I buy the property, which costs hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, do the planning and design work, which costs hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and then get turned down because a group of people don't like it. I can't support that. I have to say they should be allowed to do this. Now, the concern about transients and homeless and crime and that sort of thing, I'm looking at some of the stores I see around town that actually have houses backed right up to the property on the west side of town. the 7-Eleven in town, and there may be issues. I'm not saying there aren't issues. I haven't studied this, but I haven't seen issues. I haven't heard of issues. In my communication with the police department, it doesn't seem to be a big deal, number one. Number two, if I were the property owner and I had a store or a gas station, convenience mart, do I want transients and homeless people hanging out and doing drugs and doing stupid things on my property? Is that going to attract business for me? I would think that the owners of the property, the owners of the businesses, would be proactive in helping keep those people out, and especially willing.
Mr. Chairman, I wonder if we could please ask the crowd to give us the same consideration.
Yeah, you're out there talking and interrupting. We didn't do that to you.
Commissioner Gilbert makes a good point. Yeah, yes. Thank you. I will make that. Yes. We listened very attentively to you. Please let us speak and not interrupt. It is distracting for other people in the audience, and it's distracting for the commissioners.
And if you can't control yourself, you can always leave. So that's the option. So just, I mean to go on and on, but again, having this property.
Excuse me, after a warning, do I have to ask you to leave? I heard you. I saw your mouth moving.
No, we don't have a 3-minute rule. I can speak as long as I need to. You know now. Okay. So, the issue of traffic, I think, has been addressed. Number one, when you put something like this in, it tends to slow the traffic, not increase the speed, especially with the signal light, it will be slowed. So having said this before, but I'm going to say it again since I was interrupted and don't know that the message got through. These people were told you can build gas stations, car wash, convenience stores. And since this was zoned in 2001, I don't know that anyone has come to the city and asked for a zoning change. Have they, Rob? So the neighbors, all they have to do is look at the zoning and see what the zoning is. They could build this, 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 and this here. You know that, it's your neighbor, yet you don't go to the city for a zoning change. You wait until people have spent hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to do exactly what the city told them to do, and then tell them they can't build it. So I can't support going against this. I have to wholeheartedly support the project and hope and pray that if it does move forward, that the neighbors, as well as the owners of the businesses that are there, work together to keep it a nice, productive, safe environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cross. Commissioner Manning.
Yeah, I'll first start by thanking everybody for coming here tonight. And secondly, I'll apologize for how you were just treated as the public. I want to remind the committee up here that I work with that we work for you, not for us. We work for you. I also want to apologize for the comment made to you how this meeting can go a lot smoother had you all filled out a yellow tag, as if there was frustration over the fact that it wasn't smooth. I want to say that this is one of the most professional groups that has ever come here with something that they're so emotional about, and I appreciate everything you all said, and I apologize. I've seen good cops and bad cops in my day, and bad cops are the cops that walk up to a situation and make it worse, and that's what I just saw right here. So I'm sorry for that. I understand emotions get high. I don't know why anybody on this committee would be emotional over anything like this. We have to make a decision and it's hard, but that was, I apologize. As far as dates and notification, the notification was done on September 8th. Is there a rule on when the notification has to be done and a guideline or anything? Rob, can you ask?
Yeah, it's 10 days prior, 10 days prior to the meeting.
So we met that on September 8th.
That's correct.
Okay. Is that when it's sent or when they get it?
That was when it was sent. I don't know when they get it.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm not the mail, so I had.
Right.
But it's also in the newspaper. So
Okay.
on that day, it's in the newspaper. And like I said, development activity report, probably about a year and a half that it's been on the city's website.
Right.
As an application, a valid application.
Right. Christine, is that the day we have to send it is 10 days before? Okay, so we met that. Some of these questions might be a little redundant, but I just want to get more clarification. We have nothing to do with the alcohol licenses. Is that correct? So that's all through the ABC. Okay.
So real quick clarification on that. As far as the ARCO AMPM, they do not need a conditional use permit through the Planning Commission.
Because of the zoning.
Correct. If it is a restaurant, then a restaurant, bar, that kind of thing, on-premise consumption requires a conditional use permit.
Okay.
In this situation, what we're reviewing tonight does not.
That would come back to the committee, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So just to clarify, so what will happen is they will submit an application to the alcohol beverage control, and it will ask, pursuant to your zoning, are you required to have a conditional use permit? And the box will be checked no. And then the ABC has their own process for determining whether to issue the permit or not.
Okay, thank you. Shifting gears here a little bit, there was a comment about access on the north. It was an online caller that commented about access to the north with the access area. How does that relate to what we're approving tonight? I think that's a fair comment. She was asking about other options.
Yeah, so as I explained it during the presentation, there is a pedestrian access point that has a gate on it. They have no obligation to open that up.
And is that the one on the north that she was talking about?
From her side, it's the northwest corner.
Okay.
From this side, it's the southwest corner. So they have no obligation to open that up. So the first site plan that you have doesn't show any access on that side. That's why the NEV access is that kind of far along Oak Tree Lane.
Okay.
So there should be no NEVs or golf carts going through the villas, but we can't control what residents of Sun City Lincoln Hills, that is part of Sun City Lincoln Hills, those are public roads, can and can't do through there. That's why that trail that I had mentioned before is there.
Right. Okay. Thank you. We received a letter of concerns about CEQA considerations, and which is really what we're here about, right? That we don't have to go back for another CEQA investigation, basically, in this whole project. And one of the concerns is that CEQA did not consider a school next door. Can one of the experts here help me understand that concern and if that concern is legitimate?
CEQA did consider uses. It does consider those uses that are adjacent to one another. Does it specify, hey, we're going to have a school directly next to a drive-through? No, it doesn't.
Okay.
But what it does is it does say these uses are compatible. They can be side by side. This particular site for Deer Crossing can have those specific uses. The church site can have their specific uses. So when the analysis was done for CEQA, this EIR, those were taken into account. Drive-throughs, playgrounds, schools, alcohol sales, gasoline stations, all of that was taken into account at that same time.
Okay. The letter states also that the applicant no wording or anything about the school next door. Is that true that took place in the application? That's my first question.
There was no need to mention the school.
Okay, so that's leading to my next question. Is the school something that should be in an application?
In this situation, no.
No. Okay. Okay. All right, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hutchinson.
Thank you. I too would like to thank all of you for coming. As a parent and a grandmother, and the only woman of the seven of us, I felt your emotions and your concerns very strongly, and I do appreciate you taking the time to do that. One question I have, and I believe Commissioner Johnson, you mentioned that, was the idea of a retaining wall between a sound wall. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Words and me sometimes get mixed up, but a sound wall that could be high enough perhaps to mitigate some of the concerns would be something. Could we put that as a condition of approval? And I'm asking that, Rob, that a sound wall.
You all would have to make that recommendation.
But that would be a possibility.
According to the applicant, he already said that would be appropriate.
All right, good. I've heard emotion. And of course, as Chairman Lyons indicated, our responsibility deals with facts and findings and responsibilities. And the hard thing is to remove the emotion from the decisions with facts and findings. I understand Commissioner Cross's comments. I agree with him, his comments. I agree with the concept that this project went back to what, Rob, 2001, when the developer first started working with this, prior to the church and the school coming in. Am I correct with that?
This site was actually approved for a very similar development in 2006.
All right, 2006. But it was, as I understand, the school and the church moved in about 6 years ago.
The church has been there for as long as...
Oh, okay, 1995, and the school came in.
The school came in 2016 or so.
All right, thank you. All right, let me see if I have any other questions. The only other question I think right at the moment deals with the 600 feet with the mini mart versus the distance to the property where the school is. Is that an issue? Looking at the plans, are we looking, what is the footage? Is this an issue that would stop the concern of the parents about the alcohol situation? Is that something that we would even look at, or is it just strictly ABC would look at the distance between the school and the selling of alcohol?
For the ARCO AM/PM, it would be the state.
Okay, the state. Okay, correct. Not something we would look at. Okay, correct. I have no other comments at this time.
Thank you, Commissioner Hutchinson. Commissioner Gilbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A lot of emotion in the room, and that's understandable because we're talking about kids, whether they're yours or someone else's. We all have a special emotion when we talk about kids because it's our responsibility to raise them, protect them, and all the rest. I've been doing this kind of work for 45 years. Served on 2 city councils, 2 terms at each one. And fortunately, when I retired from the Lincoln City Council, my colleagues pointed me to the Planning Commission. My wife was glad because she doesn't like me hanging around her house. It's her house. I just get to sleep and pay the bills. You all made some very, very, very good points tonight. And I've been involved in these types of public discussions many, many times. You have a use permit that allows you to do certain things on your property. And that's protected. Because you're a church, you have even further protection beyond what we can give you as a city at the state and certainly at the federal level. And that's very important in America because we protect our churches and our places of worship. On the other side, as some of my colleagues have said, we all have property rights. I have property rights as far as my home is concerned, and staying within the law, nobody can tell me what to do with my home. As long as what I do is legal and proper. If I'm a good neighbor, I'm going to do things that protect my responsibility towards my neighbors because they have to live next door to me. In this case, and I checked some records, I actually found that this use was approved in 1998, a little earlier than we've heard so far. I've had to make several decisions, and several here in Lincoln, where someone said on a housing project, I don't want those homes built there because it's going to obstruct my view that I have. That project was approved 15 years before theirs was built for lack of financing or whatever. People bought over here without checking with City Hall to find out that there was going to be another project in front of them, and they lost their view. But that person had property rights, which predated this builder over here. And so although I met with those folks and met with two attorneys with them, and the city ended up approving the project and it's been built. I live in Lincoln Hills. Right in my CC&Rs, it says the open space behind my home, I cannot control. If they wanted to build homes in there, they could do that. So for 20 years, I've lived up there with the hope that they won't build homes in there because we enjoy the view, but I don't own that view. None of us own what's on the other side of the fence. So I think my obligation as an appointed official is to do what I can do to protect you. I totally support the idea of a higher fence, a higher wall, and we know that the applicant has agreed to that. And that will eliminate some problems. Not all, obviously, but it will eliminate some problems. But the same way, when you wanted to build your church, and later when you wanted to build your school, we couldn't say no to you. I wasn't involved then, but predecessors did. We can't say no to this applicant because he had his rights. They were in place prior to the time you built the school. And so it was kind of this saying we always hear if you're in public service, NIMBY, not in my backyard, okay? But you don't control what's on the other side of the fence. So I'm reluctant, unfortunately, with all the emotion I heard today, and I serve on the board of a couple religious organizations and understand from the comments you made this evening, a lot of you put a lot of time in making this particular church and this school work and work well for you. And it's a sanctuary for your children in this school, which is very important to today's environment that we're raising children. I can also say to you that you chose to live in a city that out of 500 and some odd incorporated cities in California, last time I checked, we were ranked 14th safest in terms of major crime. So do we have incidents? Of course we do. You can't build, unless you build a castle with a huge wall, you can't keep other people out. That's not the way our country and our economy works. But we have a very effective law enforcement group in our town, number one. And number two, because the town is relatively new, most everything is new, we don't have a lot of alleys and we don't have a lot of problems that were created 50, 100, 200 years ago, which continue to plague a lot of our major cities here in California. So I wanted to share those thoughts with you. They meet the zoning requirements. It sounds to me like they are more than glad to make accommodations such as this wall. And I think if there was something else that you wanted them to do with the understanding that they have their rights to build, we certainly could ask them to do that. But I don't think we can say to them, your multi-million-dollar investment, we're not going to allow it in Lincoln. Because quite frankly, if we were to do that, they have the right to sue us and we would probably lose. And it would end up, now I'm not saying I'm making the decision because of that money there, but we would lose because they have their rights by being the property owner. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Gilbert. One thing about being chair, I can choose to be last in the order, and fortunately, most of you have addressed a lot of the things that I wanted to address. But I do want to make sure I have grounds for all of the findings that I believe we should make. So I do want to go through a checklist of sorts and of the accusations and claims that are made in the letter that was presented to us and is part of the record. The first is not including Lincoln Christian Academy in the consideration. The fact that we have listened to you here, we have included you in the consideration. So to make a claim that we haven't considered you before we've even had a chance to consider you, I don't think is fair. Granted, and I think both sides have said, more notice could have been given and it would have been appreciated. Does that mean it did not comply with the law? No, it did comply with the law. The next claim is that it does not meet the requirements of CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act. And it claims that the subsequent environmental review has been triggered. Rob, can you address that from a general perspective? My understanding is that this has been gone through, different aspects of this have been involved in several environmental impact reports, and all of the factors involved, including the land use, the zoning, the compatible uses, the air quality, the traffic, have all been considered multiple times in the past.
In various iterations, that's correct. So let me read you something real quick. This is from the California Environmental Quality Act, and it's the section that I'm asking you to make in order to ensure that CEQA has been addressed. And I need my glasses. So it's section 15162, and it's the title is Subsequent EIRs and Negative Declarations. I don't usually do this, but why not share? When an EIR has been certified or a negative declaration adopted for a project, no subsequent EIR shall be prepared for that project unless the lead agency determines, on the basis of substantial evidence in the light of the whole record, one or more of the following. So this is very similar to what we did with regard to another project that we worked on in 12 Bridges that was pretty contentious, and that was the La Quinta project. So substantial changes are proposed in the project which will require major revisions to the previous EIR or negative declaration due to the involvement of a new significant environmental effects or a substantial increase in the severity of previously identified significant effects. Because the GDP was adopted by the council, reviewed by Planning Commission with recommendation, and the EIR was adopted at that time for these specific uses, that finding can be made. This is, again, I'm recommending that to the Planning Commission. Substantial changes occur with respect to circumstances under which the project was undertaken, which will require major revisions of the previous EIR or negative declaration due to the involvement of a new significant environmental effect or a substantial increase in the severity of the previously identified significant effects. We're not changing the zoning, still village commercial, still allowed to develop as a village commercial development. No changes have taken place. New information of substantial importance, which was not known, could not have been known with the existence of reasonable diligence at the time of the previous EIR, was certified as complete or the negative declaration was adopted. Shows any of the following: the project will have one or more significant effects not discussed in the previous EIR or negative declaration. Significant effects previously examined will be substantially more severe than shown in the previous EIR. Mitigation measures or alternatives previously found not to be feasible would in fact be feasible and would substantially reduce one or more significant effects of the project, but the project proponents declined to adopt a mitigation measure or alternative. And mitigation measures or alternatives which are considerably different from those analyzed in the previous EIR would substantially reduce one or more of the significant effects. Again, all of the documents that have been approved, the analysis that has been conducted, all point to uses living with one another. So that's what zoning kind of comes down to. And you look at those specific uses and how do they relate to one another. So in this specific situation, the church site is allowed a church, schools, other things. The analysis also says that on the adjacent site, the Deer Crossing site, you can have a gas station. You can have alcohol sales. So the analysis that was done in this document goes through that. So we don't need to open it back up again. We can utilize 15162, which is what I presented to you guys this evening, to accommodate the CEQA aspect.
Thank you. That was far more technical than I expected, but I think you confirmed what I said.
May as well throw it out there. It's I think hopefully it's helpful.
Yeah, I appreciate it. There are also aspects of this, because this project borders on Oak Tree Lane and McBean Parkway, which are part of the Village One plan. Am I correct that there is currently a draft supplemental EIR open for comment because on the traffic and air pollution issues on those streets in that vicinity?
Mel Pavolinas, that's a different project that's ongoing.
It is a different project. I'm just wanting the public to know that there is something out there on that topic with plenty of information available, including traffic counts, sources, flows, and all of that information, because I think the public needs to know what's available to them for their own information.
Yeah, there is an ongoing amendment to that Village One specific plan. An environmental impact report has been is published for public review. The public review is closing in a couple of weeks. It's pretty focused regarding traffic, some land uses. So the comments that would be received, hopefully, would focus in on those aspects of the proposed project. But yeah, it's a pretty focused amendment. So
yeah, the focus there is more toward the Sierra College intersection and the rerouting of Oak Tree Lane, which is the other end of Oak Tree Lane, not this end. So it really doesn't pertain specifically to this, but I do know that there is a lot of traffic flow information. So I want you to know these things are not taken lightly, are not ignored. There's a lot of research, a lot of money, a lot of time that goes into it, and you can see it for yourself. Be prepared. It's hundreds and hundreds of pages. So another claim is that this is inconsistent with the general plan. Am I correct that this lot has a general plan land use allocated for commercial?
Correct.
that it is inconsistent with the 12 Bridges specific plan, the Lincoln Hills General Development Plan. Are those consistent with this?
Yes, they are.
And the Lincoln Municipal Code, it cites, I'm trying to remember where it was. Anyway, there was something about the municipal code saying that including speech, communication, conversation, teaching, et cetera, that this would not be compatible. Is the municipal code in agreement with this plan? Is there anything that would oppose this in the municipal code from a legal point of view? There are several items listed here as being applying from the general plan, including policy HS 3.2, 3.5, 3.8, et cetera, noise guidelines, and so forth. Though all of those policies are included in the environmental impact reports that you referred to earlier, correct?
Correct.
Let's see, and it talks about traffic studies. Those are in the environmental impact report. Oh, it was on the last page about the municipal code. I did want to ask our city attorney, this paragraph refers to, is not in conformance with the Lincoln Municipal Code. For example, pursuant to chapter 18.32, the applicant was required to disclose the location of nearby schools with their application materials. I don't believe that's what 18.2 is referring to. Can you clarify that for us? 18.32.
So just as she's doing that, 18.32 is the ordinance portion of Title 18 that speaks specifically to how you do a planned unit development. So 12 Bridges is a planned unit development. Sun City Lincoln Hills is a planned unit development. So the items that are listed in there are all within those documents. So when thank you. Yeah, when the specific plan was approved, it did show locations of, well, not for Del Webb so much, there weren't any schools there, but for 12 Bridges, it did show school locations. That's the intent, I guess, of that 18.32.
Yeah, so it's in creation of the plan that this is now in compliance with.
Correct. That is an element that is looked at when you're developing your different densities of residential housing and how many school facilities are necessary to accommodate that planned growth. And so that was looked at as part of the documents that were adopted and looked at that time.
And from a municipal code standpoint, the compatible uses and the permitted uses of both properties, both the church property and this proposal property, both of those are in compliance with the compatible uses, correct? According to the municipal code?
Correct. Yeah, and the PUD gives you a lot more leniency. So within these documents, that's why the alcohol item isn't coming back to you for the gasoline station.
So that did prompt one other question I had. Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought I had heard from a couple of different sources that the city council passed an ordinance a year or two ago saying that if a restaurant has a full menu, that they are entitled by right to also serve alcohol.
Correct.
So that would not have to come to us either.
It's a specific type of license from ABC, and I think it's a type 41, and it's just beer and wine.
Okay.
But a full restaurant.
It's a full 41. Restaurant, not just a bar. If it was a bar, it would have to come to us.
Correct. And the commission did review that as well.
Yeah. Yes. I remember one of our commissioners recommended it. And yeah. But the council is the one that has the final say. I remember a comment, I'm trying to remember who you were responding to. I think it was Commissioner Manning, about that the mention of a school is unnecessary. Is the reason for that being unnecessary because it is a compatible use already listed in the municipal code, or am I misunderstanding? Is there another reason that mentioning the school in this proposal was unnecessary?
So it's kind of a two-part question. The school is allowed based upon the 12 Bridges General Development Plan Area C. That's what this area is. The church is on Area C. As far as mentioning it in any type of review or my documents that I provided, wasn't that I did it erroneously or nefariously. It was just that the church was there. That's what I mentioned in my staff report. So there is no need to mention a school per se. And no, I'm not trying to be callous about that either. It was just the church is there. I knew the church was there. I really wasn't aware of the school, to tell you the truth. It was just recently approved. It wasn't that long ago. One last thing, it has no bearing on this approval at this time.
That's kind of what it was.
Sorry,
it had no bearing. I was about to wrap it up that way. So thank you for doing that for me. As for the claims that having a shopping center next to a school is incompatible, or commercial zoning next to a school is incompatible, I did a brief research this afternoon looking at Google Maps. It's very handy, and found 6 schools within about a 15-minute drive of here, all of which are adjacent to a shopping center. Immediately adjacent. I mean, they border on them. John Adams, and I say shopping center loosely. This could be commercial zoning. It could be enterprise zones. It could, I mean, there's a lot of different nuances to what you call a shopping center or a commercially zoned property. But John Adams Academy in Lincoln, Breen Elementary, Rockland, California International School in Rockland, Adventure Christian in Rockland, John Adams Academy in Roseville, which by the way borders on I-80, talk about traffic, noise, and pollution, and Rockland Academy. There are 3 more that are less than 1 block away from a shopping center of some sort, including Creekside Oaks in Lincoln, Lincoln Crossing Elementary, and Rockland Elementary. So this is not unprecedented. It is not incompatible. It is well established. I was pleased to see Richard Sambucetti being the representative for Borges. I actually didn't know he was still working. In full disclosure, I didn't know he was on this project, but I worked with Richard on a architectural project back 20 years ago, this year, in fact, 20 years ago. And it was great to see you again, or hear you again, Richard. But I know him to be a very reasonable person who would be happy to work with you to make accommodations even beyond the sound wall. So I definitely encourage you to communicate. And one other thing I wanted to ask you, Rob, this plan that we see, as you mentioned, a drive-through would require another CUP, but yet it's on the plan. How precise is this plan to what is actually built, or will there be other elevations and stuff that come back later? Is this pretty well it?
The elevations are pretty well set.
Okay.
But as far as location and how that one particular lot functions, not a lot, that particular site functions, we don't know yet. That's why we're not approving it. And I'd rather, I think with the new director over there, probably not a good idea just to willy-nilly approve uses when you don't know what the underlying use is. So, and especially hours of operation, queuing, idling, that kind of stuff. What kind of operation is it? Those are all things that we can talk about. You can talk about next time, how it fits. Is a coffee shop the right use in that spot? Is some other type of fast food good in that shop or that spot, that's something that you guys will all have to kind of take into account when it comes back to you, if it does.
Okay. I just was curious if they requested some other flow of traffic or anything, how likely it is that that would be a negotiable item. Hard to say.
It's really hard, yeah.
Okay. It never hurts to ask if there's something you would like to request. There's a lot to be said about being a good neighbor versus creating enemies. I think the way this was approached was disappointing to me, especially from an organization with the word Christian in the name. I would have hoped for a more amicable approach than an adversarial approach. I do think, even though I believe we have made all the findings necessary to approve it, I do think we have, and I know from council in the past, that we have the ability to make accommodations or recommend conditions of approval. And I am very much in favor of a condition of approval of a sound wall. And I would recommend it being high, like 8 foot. So it's not easy to just hop over. But I think, I also hope that, I know there's several teachers in this room. I hope that you're learning how the process works so you can educate your students, because the more people that are educated on how the process works, those that participate can help stem these things long before they happen. This zoning was done 20 years ago. That zoning was in place 15 years before the school moved into that location. Maybe you should have checked the zoning of your adjacent property before moving into that location. And the permitted uses in that zoning. It reminds me a lot of the people who move in next to an airport and then complain about the sound of the airport. We have to live with the decisions made before us. And I was telling Rob, that's why I'm on the Planning Commission, is I didn't know the process 15 years ago. And my community was heavily affected, and I wanted to prevent that from happening again if I ever could. So sorry if I'm running on, but that's one of the nice things of being up here. We can do that. So I'm going to allow other commissioners to make any other comments if you want to follow up. Commissioner Johnson?
Thanks. Yeah, I'll just make a few, I guess, closing remarks. I too apologize to you sitting here, our neighbors and, fellow citizens in the community. We all live amongst you. We're here for you, not for us. And apologize how you're treated as well by some of my colleagues after my comments. It was appalling, and I hope, we can do better than that. And one of the, some of the comments were made, facts were shared. We've heard facts. We take facts into consideration. And as our chair pointed out, this is our time to consider your input as well. After all, this is called a public hearing where we do hear from the public and we take, your comments into consideration. And as planning commissioners, there is room for us to have our personal opinions. We're not only looking at how it fits in with zoning and ordinances and all that stuff that comes with it, but at the same time, we have to look at health, safety, morals, and how it fits within the community and what impact a project has in an area. So I don't believe it's just cut and dry. I think there is a lot to consider in every project. And obviously there's a lot of input about this, and I am disappointed, with how this came about. I wish the applicant would have been a little more forthcoming and upfront, diligent in engaging their neighbors earlier on. I think if that would have happened, you know, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. I am glad that it sounds like he is willing to work with, you know, some of these considerations, and I hope that happens. Lincoln needs commercial property, and as you all agree, I know you do, but it has to be the right, you know, fit. And so I hope, you know, this space is developed. I hope this applicant can do what they want, but within the bounds that, you know, fit well with what's adjacent to it. So that's my hope. And unfortunately, I'm not able to support this project how it is right now.
Any other comments from commissioners?
Comment. So since moving to Lincoln in, when did I move to Lincoln? 2005. I've heard comments in our city leadership quite a bit about the award-winning master plan. The term award-winning seems to always be put in front of the term master plan. I think tonight's concerns heighten the concern that we should have about our master plan, and that it's probably time that we readdress it. I know it's not something that the Planning Commission really does on their own, but I'm speaking as a member of the Planning Commission and as a citizen. On this commission, in my term on this commission, I have seen us do zoning changes one after another, amendments to development agreement amendments, as if they're just a swipe of a pen and so simple. So basically, what we're saying is that we need to consider what our master plan looks like, because almost every meeting, and when I say almost, I mean almost every meeting, we're doing zoning changes and amendments to all these agreements and changing things in this so-called award-winning master plan. It's an old plan. And while I think some of the comments tonight, I think our member Gilbert here, I think what he said was probably the most eloquently put, how he talked about it. There was empathy in what he said, but yet he talked about how sometimes rules are rules and it's our job to look at it that way, and landowners have rights and this and that. And I think what he said was pretty right based on where our master plan is right now. But the question goes back 20 years is, should we have these two uses directly adjacent to each other? And unfortunately, nobody on this committee really probably had anything to do with that. But this is my last term on this committee, and I hope as I move forward, I hope this the city can really embrace our master plan and look into really making changes we need to make into the future, because I don't think we're on the right path.
Commissioner Cross.
Yeah, I don't disagree with one thing that he said, but we have to understand it's the job of the city council to change. The master plan was adopted in 2008 and could probably use quite a bit of work. But it's the job of the city council to entertain and make those changes. It's our job to make sure that the guidelines they've given us, that we operate within those guidelines. I think based on what comes before us, I disagree a little bit. I think we make very few changes. Most of what we do operates within the general guidelines that we have. But again, that's a city council project to approve or change that. I think the thing that's before us today is whether or not the applicant did what they were required to do to have a project that they can build. And I would say again, when you're told you need to meet these requirements so that you can have these uses, and they meet those requirements and request those uses, we have an obligation, although there may be people that don't want to see it, and they may feel strongly about it, we have an obligation to allow them to do it. I think the time to have changed, like you said, you can change zoning, but the time to change the zoning isn't after someone has spent millions of dollars doing what we told them to do to prepare to get ready. The time to change the zoning is before they spend all that money and do all that work based on what we told them to do. So we as a city told them to do certain things. They did them, and I think we have the responsibility to approve this project and encourage the owner of this project and the owner of the church and the school to communicate with each other to have a successful project, as opposed to just being enemies and having problems. I think that can be accomplished too. So I don't think that somebody developing a project wants to have transients or homeless people doing drugs on their property. I know if I owned the property, I wouldn't, and I would assume that the owner of this property doesn't want to, and if any of their neighbors see a problem, they could bring it to them and have it acted on immediately, or bring it to the city and have the city act on it immediately. So, thank you.
Thank you. I will say that that is one thing the 8-foot high sound wall would impede, and that is seeing a problem. It would just be on the other side of the wall and you'd never see it. But I do think it's still for the better. Any other comments? All right, I will entertain a motion. Okay, yes, I have to go back up a page and read more formal language. All right, so I'm entertaining a motion for adopting resolution 2022-21. Actually, shouldn't 2022-21 be for CEQA exemption? There's no number there.
The CEQA exemption is actually contained within the resolution.
Okay, okay. Adopt resolution 2022-2020, excuse me, 2022-21, which approves the specific development plan and development permit to design review application for the construction of Deer Crossing with those specific, those project specific and typical considerations of approval, with the additional condition.
Sound wall.
Yeah, the additional condition of an 8-foot high sound wall adjacent to the
western side.
On the western side of the property. Thank you, Dan, for the language.
Sorry.
That's quite all right. Is there a motion?
I make the motion.
Second.
And roll call, please.
Commissioner Cross?
Yes.
Commissioner Hutchison?
Yes.
Commissioner Gilbert?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
No.
Vice Chair Manning?
No.
Chair Lyons?
Yes. The motion is carried. That concludes item 8, public hearings. Takes us to item 9, general business. Looks like we do not have any general business tonight. Item 10, commissioner comments. Do any of my colleagues have any comments they would like to share?
CEQA.
They said CEQA was included in the resolution. Yes.
I would like to wish Rob well in his future endeavors, as this is his last planning meeting, and with Commissioner Manning saying that this is his last planning meeting, I'd like to wish him well as well. Last in the term. Forgive me.
Yeah, we have a couple more months left.
But I will say thank you. She's in a hurry. She's in a hurry to get rid of me.
I don't hear well.
I have a couple more, I think.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, I just comment that this was obviously a difficult decision for all of us. There's a lot of emotion that we heard from people that we could all personally relate to. And but it shows government working, you know, and we have to find, you know, we have to make decisions. And as much as I would like to go back to the beginning and say, maybe there shouldn't be a school next to, you know, people that sell liquor or whatever. I'd love to make that decision, but that decision was made in another way, and we as commissioners have to live with it. I would like to comment, we do have an award-winning plan in this city. The unfortunate thing is, the day after it received awards, it started aging, and it probably was out of tune within a short period of time. However, I don't know what it costs today to redo the plan, but it's in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. We would have to hire many consultants with expertise in a whole bunch of different fields. The requirements today are astronomical compared to when the city adopted that 20 years ago. So, you know, cities are living with their plan that's in place, hoping that someday they'll find several $100,000 they don't need for fire, police, and all the other things that are very important. So I understand and I appreciate your comments, but it's not, right now, I don't think it's in the cards. And that does not mean that we can't make changes to the procedures and the way we approve things. We can change some things without redoing that big document. But, you know, your feelings are, Tony, are very well received. And I'd love to think that in the very near future, maybe the city's in a position to afford to go through that process. It also takes a tremendous amount of staff time away from the day. And it's a terrible time to do it when you're experiencing a lot of development. That's what happened to us in another city I was in, where we were the fastest growing city in California. And the city manager was pulling his hair out trying to, you know, have the city run, do that plan, do it right, and, you know, take us to the future. So thank you for allowing me to make my comments.
Certainly. Any comments on this side? I want to kind of echo some of what you've said. I do think it could use some updating. Unfortunately, it is very time consuming, very expensive. I think doing some amendments is a lot cheaper, and that's why some of them come across. I am curious if the notice requirements, are those in municipal code or is that state law? Where do those requirements come from? State law, which makes it impossible for us to do. I was just going to suggest that maybe the council consider broadening the notice so that it's tenants within a distance or things like that. But it's not our position to make. It's just
no. I mean, that's a good comment. It is possible to, in our municipal code, have a longer notice period. The problem then becomes sometimes the project isn't actually ready to go on that agenda. And now you've sent out all these notices and published all these things in the newspaper. And if you've given it 20 days before and you're 10 days out, you're not ready to go. Now you've got to spend all that money to renotice. So that's where the issues and complications come up.
Yeah, for the time, I agree. I was just thinking about if it could be including all tenants and businesses with licenses of record within that area, something along that line.
City of Sacramento, we notice tenants as well, but it starts to put a lot of strain on staff as well, and it's limited resources, but
I think it would help. This is not the first time we've had that same
exactly. It's always a topic of conversation, better noticing, getting, you know, projects out to the public, and it's an ongoing challenge, but ultimately like the website and those sorts of things should help get people briefed on the project.
Yeah, the concept of putting it on the website or the paper, you got to know when to go look, and it makes it hard. But that's just some thoughts and comments. There's no.
Yeah, I think just a comment from me from, indulge me, that as an as of right project, really, and the use was not, conditional. It really, I think the assumption was going into it that this is allowed, this is as of right, like there's going to be no controversy here. But as we saw, there were some concerns there. So I don't think that was anticipated, to be fair to the applicant.
Yeah, I was appreciative. I think he's left, but the gentleman who said he was in, I think it's called Lincoln Academy or Lincoln, Leadership Lincoln. Yeah. And because we need to have more people who know how the process works so they can participate in the productive and constructive ways. Sorry? Or they can fix the process if it's not working. Yeah, become part of the process, yeah. A citizen can't fix the process unless they become part of the process. Speaking, I'm being lenient because technically I don't have to allow you to speak, but yes, I appreciate you being here and that's being part of the process, but to really be part of the process is to volunteer into planning commissions, economic development committees, library committees. That's really being a part of the process. And I strongly encourage that. I've encouraged that to many of my people that I voted against what they said. When you're sitting in this chair, things look a lot different. They really look a lot different. And we don't always disagree, don't always agree. You've seen that. We disagree with each other. That does bring me to one other comment I wanted to make, and that is, I don't think it's appropriate to apologize for somebody else. And my statement about filling in the cards, I was not saying it would work smoother. I said it would work faster because there's a lot of time gaps in between. We would have been out of here 20 minutes ago if people had filled in their cards so that we didn't have these long pauses for waiting for people to actually raise their hand. That's the reason for the cards, is to expedite the process. And so, yes, ma'am. I appreciate your comments, and I don't know how much the online people could hear because she's not near a microphone, but if I can try to sum it up, it's that you appreciate us and didn't want to offend us. And I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate that the few of you have stuck it out to the end. That's not easy to do when you have families and so forth. When you're sitting in this chair, trying to keep order, trying to keep people able to focus and listen, it's not easy. And be glad that this meeting didn't go till midnight. We've had some of those. So, I also want to say farewell to Rob. Thank you for your service. And I see Richard's still on there. See you, Richard.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Commission. I appreciate your thoughts, and we will work. I will say that on behalf of John Sullivan, who's the developer, we will work with the neighbors, and John's a good neighbor.
Good. All right. If there's no other, informational items from staff. I didn't ask that. Okay, good. Then, no one objects. I will adjourn.
Oh, thank you. Trying to wrap our head around it. Lots of